What's up guys, and welcome back to Poppy Breakdowns. In today's video I'm going to be breaking down a Zara Larsson Can't Tame Her type beat that I made recently in Logic Pro X. Now this is in the genre of synthwave and synth pop, kind of also you could associate with The Weeknd or Dua Lipa style productions. So if this is the sort of sound that interests you and you want to learn how to make a production like this and build it from the ground up, then this is the video for you. If you are new to this channel, smash that subscribe button right now because it is the best way to support the channel. It also means that YouTube will keep you well notified when similar videos like this are uploaded to the channel. So let's not waste any more time, let's get into Logic Pro X and let's break down this Zara Larsson Can't Tame Her type beat. Okay, so we are now in Logic and this is the project for the Zara Larsson Can't Tame Her type beat that I made. So you can break this down into a couple of different sections for the actual production. You have the drums, the bass, the chords, the synth melody and pads as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through the structure of how I wanted to build this song from the ground up, what it is that I started with, and the sort of textures and instrumentation that I've added and sort of things I've done to add that saturation, that give it that feel that it's warm, almost kind of the 80s synthwave. So this is a very fun song. So today I started with the drums. So the drums today is Logic Pro X and this is analog circuits. You can build this using the drum machine designer, but as you can see here we have all the analog circuits presets from Logic. I haven't touched anything here, which makes it very easy for you, and I've just gone with the simple kick and snare to start it off, which is almost, if not exactly, a carbon copy of what you hear in the actual song. Very typical classic synthwave or a sort of dance disco type drum beat. Now on top of that I've added the slow jam, because what I found very interesting about the Zara Larsson drum beat is the hi-hat sounded very normally percussive and like an acoustic drum kit, not electronic. So that's why for the hi-hats I've used the slow jam, which is a Logic preset. You can see here if we go to our drum kits, slow jam is in this preset drop down menu, which is very handy for you, and we just put in this simple hi-hat which is sample delayed slightly to the left of our ears. Throwing in an open hat in there just adds a little bit more bounce to the percussion. So the drums are really nearly complete at this point because it's very simple, and that's what I love about this genre. So we have added a crash which we have used Splice for, just to add a little bit of a stamp at the start of when it goes to the round for the beats. So as well as the crash, we just need one more thing, and that is the toms. So I've again gone into Splice for the toms because Splice is really good for getting sounds, but you can equally just use drums you find in Logic. And I created this nice little drum roll. And that is basically the drums all together. It's very simple. Normally I actually track stack the drums together so I can mix them, but I haven't done it today because I'm very happy with how the drums have come out. And now we need the rhythm section, so we're adding the bass because this is synthwave, so we're going to have a very synthetic bass line. And there is no better bass line I can think of to build our synthwave beat than using the 70s classic synth bass from Alchemy. This is a Logic sample library that is built into Logic, and I use the 70s classic synth bass a lot. There is nothing that I've done, as you can see here, to mixing it. It's straight how it is out the tin, and we laid down the chord progression at this point, which would be B minor, G, D and A. So we started playing this, and again this is taking inspiration from the actual Zara Larsson song, and we came up with this. So again, this is very simple, but we're starting to now get a feel for the production, which was a good time to start adding the chords, because it's very interesting, because not only is it a mixture of piano and synthetic, but it's very staccato, very sort of stabby, but in a very smooth sort of way, which is very interesting, because we need to try and get this right. So the first thing we had to do was find the sound. So again, it's a blend of almost like pluck synth and electronic element, but also piano. So I started building my sound, because this is the best way to do it. Don't go looking for that one sound which will cover all bases. You've got to build up your sound, because this is what makes it original. So if you want to create something, for example, like this synthetic piano I'm going for, I've actually blended 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different elements together to create the sound that I wanted. So this is the first element I added. This is the electromagnetic keys, which is a preset in Logic in the keyboard section. So you can hear it's got a really nice staccato, stabby feel to it. Almost, you could say plucked. It would be a not the best way to describe it, but it's definitely still got that sort of characteristic to it. And I blended that with this next sound, which was fairy tale bells. So I thought this added a really nice, bright yet warm feel. And on top of that, now we need to start going slowly into the piano elements. So I then found the flea market whirly, which kind of has an organ feel to it. It's quite nice. And then lastly, we add the pop producer keys, which completes our Logic sounds. So you can hear it's kind of muffled piano, but I quite like the mid that this brought, which then led me on to the actual piano that we need to add now. So for the piano, I've gone into Contact by Native Instruments for this, and we used the Maverick, and I've used the compressed pop, because if you listen to the Zara Larsson song, the Can't Tame Her, the piano in it is actually very, very compressed, which is very common nowadays for pop songs like this. So then I laid down the piano chords. And it sounds really cool. Now, there's one really big point I want to make here, because this is a very cool little production trick you try. So I described that these chords sounded smooth, yet staccato at the same time. Now, what I mean by that is there seems to be like a roll-off, really smooth roll-off when certain chords end. And I had to try and think, how can I replicate that? So what I've actually done to give the piano chords that sort of roll-off when the chord comes to an end just before the next one, is I've actually side-chained a compressor into the sum of all the elements that you hear, and this compressor is side chained to not the kick but the snare drum of the drums. So what this does is creates this nice little sort of throbbing effect, which for dance beats like this and disco works really well. So if I just play this, you might hear it, but what if I take the compressor off? Have a listen again. Okay, now I'm going to play once more with the compressor on, see if you can notice. So it creates a nice little throbbing piano, also makes it a little bit more muffled, which works really well for this, because we don't want everything to be too bright, because we also want to bring across almost that analog feel to it, that saturated feel to the track. So that's why I've gone for that. And then the last thing that I have added to this is just another piano section where I'm just playing the root note to help with the low end, because the only low end we got to this point is the bass synth that we have added. And I think this adds just a little bit of punch to the chords. So when you put it all together, this was the sound that I came for, and track stacking got me to the exact sound that I wanted. Let's have a listen to that with the rest of the track so far. Got a nice bounce to it, hasn't it? Okay, so now we're moving on to the synth melody. So obviously we don't want to be exactly on the money, because that eliminates any originality that we might have had. But again, we've gone for the exact same thing here. We have been track stacking to get the sound that I wanted, combining elements. It is the best way as a music producer to be original and to create new sounds and make productions interesting. So for the synth lead, this time I'm going to play you the synth lead and then show you the elements I got into it. See, it's got a really nice bounce to it. I was really happy with this synth melody, how it came out. So how did I build this? So firstly, we actually started with the 80s Starlight. This was the synth that I was messing around the melody on. So this is the best way you can understand of how I actually built this up. So I started with this. Now, all of these layers that you're going to see added are presets in the classic synths library part here. So I just went through and I just started playing with sounds. That's how you got to do it. And I started this one because I thought, hey, that's cool. And then I went to classic pad because this is really nice sound. Adds a little bit of that atmosphere and ambience to whatever you're playing. Kind of flutters a little bit. It's good. And then we added on top of that digital colours. Very 80s synth sound in this one. So I had to have that one in there. And then next up, we then followed that up with the Dirty Pulse. I feel like this one was a little bit more in your face and very mid-heavy, which would help to this melody cutting through in the mix. So that's why I did this one. So then I finished it off with Massive Saws, which is probably my favourite synth in Logic, period. I love this synth. I've been using it since 2018 on tracks. Like, I always find myself coming back to it. But it adds that really nice sort of release to a synth to sort of not make it sound so stabby almost. And when you put it all together and listen to the chords, sounds really cool so far. Now, I could have stopped here because it's actually very simple for the most part, this Zara Larsson production, but I wanted to go a step further and I added a couple of pads in just to add that final bit of ambience. So we start with Airways, which is a pad in Logic, just playing the fifth notes of the chords to add a little bit of harmony to the synth section. And then I followed that with Retro Strings, which is a pad in the Retro Synth, by the way, in Logic Pro X. Again, Retro Synth, if you're a beginner or an intermediate music production, haven't used it before, I highly recommend that if you're creating synth-based music, use the Retro Synth. The best sounds in Logic for synth and Synthwave is in this software instrument. So please, please, please use this. It is incredible. You can mess around with it, create your own sounds. I love the Retro Synth. I have plenty of third-party VST plugins, especially for synths as well, and I still find myself using this. It's really, really good. So then, this is some synth strings to add that final bit of warmth and saturation. Again, we're just playing the chords here. So when you put that all together, actually I will quickly say I just throw in some white noise. I'm not going to give you too much time on this because it's just white noise that I've added, a riser, and then I've flipped it on its head. So it becomes a descending white noise pattern, just to add a little bit of transition between the sections. So when you put it all together, there's nothing else really to be said about the production. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this from a good point in the song so you can hear this in full effect. So there you go, guys. That is how to make a Zara Larsson Can't Tame Her type beat in the genre of synthwave and pop. If you enjoyed this video, smash that subscribe button as it's the best way to support the channel. But with that said, I'm going to leave it there for today. So keep making music and I will see you in the next video.